good evening wherever you happen to be. We are here to talk about Jira Service Management Virtual Agents. This is an exciting topic for me. It's the first kind of agent tool that I have used. And also there have been updates to this tool since I last ran one of these sessions back in, I want to say March. So I wanted to share those updates, wanted to talk about this tool and how it can help us as folks working on a service desk keep our sanity, essentially. But also want to make sure we all understand how these tools can help support us and kind of simplify them a bit and demystify them. Because I know when I first jumped into these things, it was not the simplest thing in the world to figure out. So hopefully you can all learn from my experience and my own mental anguish and pain. We'll give folks a little... Hello, Kythra. We'll give folks a little bit of time to jump on in. But while we're waiting, I'll drop in a quick poll. A virtual agent. So just a quick poll. Have you ever used a virtual agent of any kind to do anything? Caroli, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but welcome, my friend. I'm glad you're here. Kima Endra, welcome. Good to see you all. Chad, one of my coffee sponsors, thank you so much for being here. I have, it's great to have members. Thank you so much for supporting me. It does mean a lot. All right, I have one change to make because I made a mistake with a slide, and I'm going to change it before Kythra jumps all over me again and makes me feel bad in public. Okay. So like most of my trainings, folks, we're going to be bouncing back and forth between some slides and between a walkthrough hands-on of everything. Excuse me. So we're going to get a look both at the concepts and ideas that will help us understand these agents. And then we'll also just build one together, which will be fun. Carlos, welcome from Berlin. I'll be out in your neck of the woods in October for Team 25. So I'll be in Denmark and Barcelona. Kythra, I have not been up for 24 hours, my friend. I've only been up since 4:20 a.m. this morning. So if I seem a little bit extra off today, that's why. I do also want to share, though, I am now the world's best Jira admin. So thank you. Thank you. I can hear your applause. This is full of coffee, fortunately. Arestra, from Barcelona. Amazing. If you can make it to team, I'll see you there. If not, I would love to grab a coffee and say hi. All right, folks, we'll give people just one more moment. Got about 50 folks in here, which is amazing. And we are going to jump in. Rohit, welcome. I'll be back where you're at. I did get the mug, Kythra. The internet has voted me the world's best Jira admin. And so I'm now going to retire. I would like to announce that I'm retiring into my fame and fortune of being the best Jira admin. That is a bit of a joke. This mug comes from one of the vendors, which is amazing, Valentis. All right, folks, we are going to jump in and get started. So, first way of introduction, my name is Rob. I have been working in IT my entire career, even in university. So my first job, is this true? My first real paid job was to be the student help desk worker. And since then, I've worked in so many different aspects of IT. I've built up help desks from scratch. I've run teams of consultants. I've been a consultant. I've managed systems. Currently, I'm a trainer. And recently, I made the transition from corporate work to full-time content creation and training. And you'll hear me talk about this as we go. It's been a fun leap. But the focus is still on helping people exactly like you understand how systems work so we can help them do our job. I've specifically been using Jira Service Management 10 to 15 years, somewhere in there. I began using JSM, Jira Service Management, at a large company that had 30 or 40,000 workers and just working with the HR team. So you'll hear me use human resources, people team examples quite a bit. But keep in mind, everything I talk about can be used for any kind of help or support desk. It might be IT, it might be a legal support desk, it might be customer facing, it might be internal human resources. Everything I talk about. Justin, good to see you. Amol, yes, I am retiring as the world's best Jira admin. I'm going to keep that joke running as long as I can. But keep in mind that this tool that we're going to talk about, the Jira Service Manager or JSM Virtual Agent, can apply to any kind of support or help desk. It's not just going to be useful only for IT, which to me is something we all need to remember. And after this training, bring that information to your team. Let them know that, hey, I saw this Rob guy talk about this tool, and let's start exploring how it can help support our team so we can focus on the really important work. Now, I mentioned that I'm a full-time trainer, so there are, I'll talk about ways of supporting me in a bit, but most important is interaction. Many of you have found the chat. It should be over there. So please use the chat to introduce yourself and say hi. Please use the chat to ask a question. Use it to respond to someone else. Use it to ask for clarification. Use it to tell me the background annoys you, whatever it is. But you will get more out of this if you interact with others. Many folks you'll see are already chatting, and there are other options for continued learning in chat. I have a Discord server. Feel free to jump in there if you want even more interactivity. We cover topics like virtual agents, but also certifications and other Atlassian stuff. Also, as a professional YouTuber, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't. This will get you regular updates. I try and do weekly videos on various Atlassian concepts. I will be refilming and re-recording my recorded videos on the virtual agents soon because it has changed. So I'll talk about some of these changes as we go, but hit that subscribe button to get those updates. Also, hit the like button. That is the simplest, easiest way to support me. This will help other people find this and make other people's lives a bit easier. So I'll remind you as we go, simplest thing you can do is push like. There's about 60 folks in here and about 4 likes, which is great. I'd love to get up to, say, 30 likes just to see how high we can get. There is another easy way to support me, or a way to support me. I have a paid course on virtual agents. It's the QR code right under me, and I'll drop this code in the chat just so you all have it. But I'm starting to build out and share a lot more learning courses on Atlassian content. So this particular course is just about virtual agents. It's $10. An hour of in-depth content to help you build and manage and maintain these things. And I'll highlight this from Justin as I'm talking, but this live session is one of many ways you can interact with a broader community, including things like meet and greets and in-person events. So you will also see other opportunities to learn, which I can talk about later. A quick agenda. We will very quickly talk about what is Jira Service Management. What is the tool or the platform that supports our virtual agents in this context? But then we'll also talk about the concept of tiered support. And this is important because when I started working in help desk, I had no background concepts. And that lack of concepts made it hard for me to understand how the tool fit into my job or how my job could adapt or use things because I wasn't quite sure how they connect. Excuse me. Mike, thank you for the call out in the background. I'm trying to make sure it's not too busy, but it's a lot of fun for me to find stuff to cram back here. And if anyone has suggestions on other things to put, please let me know. But then we'll spend most of our time talking about agents, virtual agents, what intents are and flows and analytics and how to test our agent and build our agent, the mechanics of the agent. And these are all important concepts and ideas because when you go look up help after this training or when you talk to your team about what's important about them, there will be certain words you'll need to use to find help or certain concepts you'll have to understand to apply them. So just, let's see, we've got about, most people have used some kind of virtual agent, just slightly over half. It's also possible that you have used a virtual agent, but you were just unaware. So these things can kind of float around in there. I'm going to drop another comment, though, if you've worked on a help desk or another poll. And just a yes, no, have you worked on a help desk? If no, totally fair. You don't have to have this experience to benefit from this type of learning. But if you have, always curious just to know, what folks have been up to and what relative experience they have. So keep in mind as we go, if you haven't worked on a help desk or if you don't have a help desk, this tool can still support you because your team may have some kind of intake. They may have some kind of requests coming in that you have to service. And one way you can service that is through what's called Jira Service Management. And this is the platform created by Atlassian that handles service desks, support desks, help desks, whatever you want to call it. Stereotypically, this is information technology. I need a new laptop. I need access. But again, it can be any team, finance, product management, engineering, real estate, whatever. It supports any group that has customers, whether they're internal to the company or external, who have requests or need some kind of help. And this platform, JSM, you'll see it abbreviated, is intended to support that. Now, when we think of how we support people within any kind of platform, and this is not specific to Jira, but any way of supporting our teams, we have this tiered support structure. And many groups I work with use this. And we can think of it like a reverse funnel. As we go up, less and less work items, tickets, issues, requests will be handled by higher tiers. So the goal is as many things as possible are handled at the lowest possible tier. So, for example, when I worked with that human resources team, they had a tier 1 team of about 30 people whose entire job was to triage tickets and then to resolve a set menu of work items of tickets. And if it was outside of that list of things, they would escalate it. They'd give it to tier 2. Now, what this resulted in is something like 70% of every ticket being solved in tier 1. This meant that the tier 2 people could focus on more complex things. And of that 30% that got to tier 2, 27% was solved at tier 2. So only 3% of tickets were going to our highly trained super specialists, or were very in-depth or edge case or whatever you want to call it. So when I started learning help desk, I started at tier 1. There is a tier 0, which we need to talk about, and that's where the virtual agent kicks in. But keep in mind, every help desk has this concept of support, and you might be more than one tier. In many smaller organizations, you might be tier 1 and tier 2. Or maybe you're all 3, depending on the size of the team. But when we think of how we support and make sure our customers are being handled well and have what they need, there is this concept of tiers, and it relates to the complexity or challenge of the tickets that come in, essentially. So lower tiers get more tickets, higher tiers are more complex but less tickets. I might have put this... Oh, no, I put it in the right spot. I rearranged this deck a little. So we're going to use a scenario as we think through our virtual agent. I made this one up. Again, I picked on IT because that's the stereotypical, everyone can kind of resonate with it. But as you're exploring the virtual agent, I'll encourage you to insert your own idea of a scenario or what should it do. In this scenario, we're an IT team. We get a tons of tickets for basic things, a password reset, a question. And our team has said, hey, how do we change this? What can we do about this? And this is not uncommon. Support teams will get buried in these lower tier requests, these things that fall in tier 1 and tier 2, or tier 0 and tier 2, I'm sorry. And the teams are rightfully asking themselves, hey, this takes a lot of time. Even if it's only a few minutes, we might get a lot of these, and that sucks up a lot of time. And this is where that tier 0 comes in. Tier 0 is called deflection. And you'll see this term deflect. The idea here is no one needs to put in a ticket because the customer is able to either self-serve, they can go do the thing themselves. Imagine anytime you've had to reset your own password. More and more commonly, we're seeing the ability to do this on our own. You click a link and it sends you an email and you're done. You don't have to interact with a human. Now, that might get recorded that you did that, but it doesn't require a ticket to go to a person to examine. And that means that the people working on the help desk, the service desk, the support desk, don't have to spend time looking at that ticket because you as the customer can just fix it yourself. This is really important because it reduces friction. It means less people have to fight with the system or wait for a ticket for the customer. And it also saves bandwidth from our team. Veronica, welcome. There's also education. So there's two ways I think of deflecting tickets. The self-service. Hey, Missy, you can go reset your own password. Here's how to do that. Or did you know you could do that? But there's also education. Hey, Venkata, did you know about this policy? And if you understand that policy, maybe you don't need to put in the ticket, or maybe that will change your question. So tier 0 is really about preventing the need for a ticket. In the example I'll show you, we will use the virtual agent to do both these things. We will set it up to help self-serve someone, direct them to where to go to get the help they need. But we'll also use it to educate people, to give them information they need to be successful and to avoid the need to put in the ticket. In my demonstration, I'll be using Jira Service Management Cloud Premium. And that'll be an important thing to come back to because a virtual agent requires, it's called Rovo, requires AI to operate in many cases. I'll also be using Confluence as a knowledge base. So keep that in mind as I'm demonstrating this. Those are the structures I'm using to support this. And so you might be asking yourself, why would we use virtual agents for this? Without a virtual agent, you can educate and you can self-serve. However, it can be a bit more challenging because it's not interactive. Again, someone might go to your help desk and just see a link, but they may not realize it's there. Someone may be aware that Confluence exists with all this great knowledge, but they may not go there or they may not know how to find the thing they need. So the virtual agent is a step between telling someone, go figure it out, and a human guiding them. It's an automated way of giving people the support to guide them to what they need or even to take limited actions. So we'll see some examples, and this is a change since the last time I did this session, where the virtual agent can interact with webhooks, can update work items and tickets to adjust someone's request based on what they tell them. Again, making it easier for the human if they have to go solve the ticket because the virtual agent has done something to help the customer, and making it easier for the customer because they don't feel like they're being ignored and they can get help right away. Okay, I'm going to take a quick pause for questions. It looks like about 80% of us, exactly 80% of us have worked on a help desk before. I absolutely love that. And again, this tool is kind of intended for that help support desk and stereotypically an IT example, but it's not restricted to that. So for the 20% of us who have not worked on a help desk, I'll challenge you to think through ways a tool like this can help your team. It might be an engineering team gets a lot of bug reports and someone doesn't know how to file them. It could be a marketing team gets a lot of requests for assets and you need some help to control those. Now we're going to get hands-on in just a minute, but there's a very important concept that we all have to consider called an intent. When we think about a virtual agent, the intent is really what the customer is trying to get done or needs to do or is curious about. It's the intention behind the request. And in virtual agents, we'll see it's just called intents. Now, every virtual agent can have multiple intents loaded. And in this screenshot, I have one for hardware, one for passwords, one for policies. My job as the admin is to think through these and to consider what should my agent be answering and what should my agent not be answering. So we'll talk about planning as we go, but there will be some things you don't want your agent to get involved in. In this question from Meyer in the chat, right now, I don't believe there's an easy way to add a user to a JSM organization. This is a great follow-up, Meyer, that I'll check. And this will be another shout out to my Discord community. I'll ask this in there and I'll see how I can publish a follow-up. But there will be some pieces of work, some things that our team does that just aren't a good fit for an automated tool as of right now. And that's where we as agents as admins need to understand and go to our team and say, let's identify these things, these intentions from our customer that we can solve with a virtual agent. Things like, I need to reset a password. I have a question about a policy. How does this thing work? So when we think about what we want the agent to do, we really need to consider what is appropriate for an automated tool to handle. And you might decide, hey, password resets for some reason at our organization are not a good candidate for the virtual agent. Or you might say, hey, it's a great candidate. But keep in mind the intent is incredibly important because this is how the agent will identify what to do next. And there's two main things we need to remember when we think of intents. They should not overlap. So if I have two intents, one for laptop requests and one for password resets, I should be very clear on what they are for. Because if there's overlap, the agent won't know which one to pick when someone puts in a request. In the same way, if I'm, as a human, am reading a request from Missy, if I can't figure out what she needs, I'll be confused and have to ask for follow-up. They should also be very specific. They should be very targeted. This intent is just about resetting your password for your Gmail. This other intent can just be about resetting your password for your Slack account. I almost couldn't read this, Justin. Intents can be intense. If you have some specific examples you could share in here, or even in the horror stories channel in Discord, I'd appreciate that. I began building intents, and I didn't quite understand the need for specificity and lack of overlap. And this resulted in a bad experience for my customers because the agent would do the wrong thing. The agent relies on the intent to know what questions to ask or what actions to take. And the way we help the agent understand the intent is these things called training phrases. You may have heard of this in the context of just general artificial intelligence, but this is what tells the agent, hey, they mean this intent. In this example, we're seeing training phrases about hardware requests. For example, if someone types in, I need a new laptop, that can tell the agent that, oh, the intent is hardware request. Or if they type in the word, my monitor broke, or broken computer. So when we first build our agent, we have our intents, our ideas, but then we'll have to have some phrases, some keywords essentially that the agent uses to figure out what is Justin talking about. Oh, he means hardware request. Or Kythra mentioned broken computer, that means send them to this request type. You can go in and update these training phrases, but I spend a lot of time agonizing over these because they are so important. Again, you're a customer, you want that agent to match you with the appropriate way to get help, and the training phrases and intents are how that happens. So back to our scenario, and we're going to jump in. We've realized in our team, we get a lot of tickets about password resets. And so we sit down with our team and we realize, hey, this is an intent. Someone has the intention of getting help with their password reset. So we're going to pop over into Jira Service Management Premium and build out an agent and add an intent that will help us understand what's going on. I don't want to be in Confluence. That is absolutely the wrong system. A quick reminder to folks, if you like this content for any reason, hit the little like button. About 75 folks in here and 16 likes, which is amazing. And also check out that QR code right under my head as another way to support the channel. That's a paid course, $10 for an hour in-depth exploration of Jira Service Managements. Jira Service Managements? About Jira Service Virtual Agents, excuse me. I'm going to pick a service management project. So a project in Jira is just a container for work. There's two main types. Just Jira software, they used to call it, which is more for project management, and Jira Service Management, or JSM. Jira Service Management is that help desk, that portal. And when I open up channels and self-service, I'll have this option for virtual agent. Now, there's a few conditions that have to be met for me to get here. I have to be a project administrator. So if you don't have that access, you can't do this. You might have to talk to IT to get that access. And Rovo, the AI tool, needs to be turned on for specific features to work. And apparently this project isn't available. So that's exciting. I have to go find a different project. Let's see if the legal service desk will let me do things. All right. I'm very quickly going to make us our own project to play with because I don't want to fight with Jira too much. General Service Management. All I'm doing here is very quickly creating a brand new project. This is not probably something you would have to do if you're currently using Jira. You would already have one existing, but I was running into some issues and I don't want to have you all watch me fight with the system to make this work. So back into my project settings, again, I'm an admin here, and I've just clicked on Virtual Service Agents. And again, since the last time I did this training, all of this has changed. It's a lot more, it looks a lot nicer, a lot more interesting. But what I'm going to do, because this is brand new, I have to make an intent. And again, thinking through my scenario, my intent is we have a lot of password resets. So we think our customers need help with passwords. For the agent to know what to do, I have to give it a request type to put work items into. So when the agent tries to help someone, I'll build it a path, a workflow essentially. That's a specific thing in Jira, but it's a process it works through. And at the end of that process, it can either close the request and say, hey, I helped out Justin, or it might say, I have to escalate this and make a work item. This is where I'm going to pick what type of request should this come from. Now, I'm just going to make it submit a request or incident, but depending on your team's needs, this could be something different. This could be created by the agent, something called, virtual agent assistant or anything else. Once I do that, I now have a virtual agent. Now, what we're looking at is actually a Rovo agent, and this is Atlassian's new agenic AI. So keep in mind, this is a shift from where it used to be. So now we're working with a Rovo agent that's specialized in this service agent. And the default is this overview page. I will talk more about this as we go, but I have some options on the left here. I can see which channels does the agent operate in. So by default, it's connected to the portal where someone goes in to put in a ticket, but I could also connect it to Slack or Teams or email. So depending on your needs, you can have it get information and get requests from different places. Again, I've used Slack in the past, and the agent just sits in a Slack channel and people can talk to it, just like you would talk to a human mostly. Under configuration, though, I've got things like identity. What is the name of the agent? Is there a description of it? Its basic settings. And then right now we have these intents. And again, the intent is what's going to drive the agent. How does it know where to go? I've got an interesting question. Have you ever interacted with a virtual agent? Now, the answer for most people to this question is probably yes. A more interesting question is, did you realize you were interacting with a virtual agent? I might ask that one later. I think back to virtual agents as starting with the little chat pop-up when you go to your bank or you go somewhere. This virtual agent is a little bit more powerful than that. It has more features, and it's intended, again, to help someone out. So when we add these intents, it's going to give us a lot of options. These are like templates, essentially. And this is just what Atlassian is recommending. We can also build our own. So I could click on one of these. I don't see anything for password requests. But one interesting thing you'll notice, it's saying based on related requests. So Atlassian is going through my Jira Service Management instance and saying, hey, I'm noticing a lot of things about Dropbox or Text Expander or Duo. Maybe this is a good intent for you to add. So Atlassian is trying to help us out because this step, figuring out our intents, is both very important and very intimidating. It can be hard to get started. So I'll encourage you all, when you go in here, to explore these and see what happens if you add Jira Access. We're going to start from scratch, though, because I want to give you the full experience. The first thing we do is give it a name. Now, this is admin facing, so customers don't see the name of this. I tend to call it, I label it something that is very descriptive that another admin will know right away, what does this do? Because if Missy comes in here to help me out, Missy's going to need to know what it's for. And same thing for the description. Customers don't see this. My other admins do, so I want to be friendly with them. Now, again, as Justin mentioned jokingly, intents can be intense. Everyone try saying that 5 times out loud. I might realize later that I really need a password reset for different systems. So depending on your setup, you might realize this is not specific enough. For our example, though, we'll run with this. And next is a display name. This is what will show up in the agent, and someone might see this as a button name. So I want to be careful with this name. It's got to be short, and it's got to be something that right away, I'll pick someone from the chat, Amal knows what is this. So for my display name, maybe I'll say get a password reset or password reset help. That's probably better. This is something else I agonize a lot over because it's so important. When someone sees it, they should know exactly what it's for. So that created my intent. And now I have to add training phrases. You have to have at least 3. For some reason, Atlassian decided that's the minimum. You can have more. And remember, they have to be specific and not overlap with another intent. So I want to make sure everything I type in here relates to a password reset. So password reset is a very easy one. As the agent is used, it will also start creating its own on the back end. So it will start to learn and get feedback from users on what's being asked. But here as a human, I can come in and give it specific things that always mean a password reset. Password expired maybe, need a new password. This list, I will brainstorm phrases I think will work, but I'll also go through existing work items and review what are the actual password reset tickets and what phrases and keywords do people use in those tickets. So I've got some, I'll put in a few more. I need a new password. And you'll see it can be variations too on them. The more specific and the more tight we can get this, the more effective the agent will be because it can more easily access the intent. Hayes, I love how you're jumping in. Anyone else have other ideas for what could indicate the intention, I need a new password or I need a password reset? Locked account is a great one. Password locked. I have password expired. I might even say something like expired password. Now, I think of this like training a brand new help desk worker as well. I'm locked out. That one, duh. Now, what we're doing right now is another important step in building our agents. I will not just do this by myself. Oh, sorry, Robert, I jumped that one in. Change login, unable to log in, cannot log in. I love all these. Cannot log in. Just locked out. My password doesn't work. All right. This process of asking your team what I just did is another great way to get these phrases. So the more people you ask, the more phrases you get that relate to the intent, the better. Again, you have to be careful. You have to be sure all of these things actually mean I need to reset my password. But forgotten password, there's another great one. And you can see in about 10 seconds, we got another 8 or 9 or 10 training phrases that will help my customers get what they need. That is amazing. And it took basically no work. This process can take time, so depending on how big your build out is, but I'll just hit create. Justin, if you forgot your password, I can't help you. You're going to have to talk to your admin. Sorry, folks. That was a bit of a joke. He meant that as a training phrase. So now we have that intent. I'm going to come back to this screen because this confused the heck out of me. But we now have an agent. It's got, under the intents menu, I can now see an intent. Now, in reality, I would keep doing this. I would keep adding more intents to allow the agent to match more requests for help. So my agent can do multiple things in the project. The intents that I add should relate to the project. So if I have a IT help desk project, all the intents will relate to things the IT help desk does. If I have a marketing project, all the intents would relate just to marketing. So I would just keep hitting add intent and repeating that process. But again, I want to do homework before I start doing that. I want to talk to my team and say, hey, what other phrases are needed or should we add? And you can always go back and tweak that. Your admin told you to take a long walk, Justin. All right, folks. So that's the hardest part for me, honestly, because I have to consider what is the agent doing and why. A quick coffee break for Rob, a quick push the like button break for all of you. And again, this is the course I was talking about. This is an hour in depth, very focused on getting an agent up and running, including the concepts and background ideas. So if you're curious about learning more and if you want to support me, this is a great way. Another great way you can support me is become a channel member, like my friend Chad, who's been a little bit quiet. But you get some great perks like shout outs in the channel. You get early access to videos and that kind of thing. I'll drop a link to that here in a minute. But more importantly, I need to drink out of my world's best Jira admin mug. I'm curious how long I'll be amused for that. Justin was looking in the mirror when his admin yelled at him. I am impressed, sir, that your professionalism is so high that you are your own admin. All right, folks, so that was the intents, and that is how the agent knows, what are you talking about? So when Michaela, I hope I'm saying that right, goes in, the intent is used to figure out, what do I do? What does the agent do next? And what the agent then does is follow a flow. I will probably trip up and say workflow. A workflow is a specific thing in Jira, so I have to be very careful. I'm talking about the steps an agent follows to help someone. Now, there are standard flows that cover basic things like a greeting. Hi, I'm the virtual agent. Or there are standard flows like, hey, would you provide some feedback on your experience? So I think there's 5 standard flows we'll look at. More specifically, though, or more interestingly, we have custom flows, things that we as admins go and define. So when it matches the intent, password reset, what does the agent do next? Does it send a greeting? Does it ask for clarification? Does it confirm someone has read a policy or try to self-service action? Does it request their location or their manager or something else? So there's a limited menu of actions our agents can take after it knows what you're talking about. So these standard flows are greet, escalate, resolve, match intent, and auto close. You don't have to memorize these. They're always available, but every agent has these flows. I believe we can still modify the text, so I can change the greeting by project, by agent, but these are always running. Now, some of the important ones to me are the greeting, like once it matches once someone uses the agent, what does it say? And all the default stuff is fine, but you might want to examine it to match your company's language or tone or other guidelines in terms of communication. The match intent one is important because the agent will attempt to match the intent, and if it's unsure, it has some built-in follow-up steps. Like, hey, Chad, I think you're talking about password resets. Is that correct? It uses that match intent flow to also train itself to get feedback from actual humans on are the training phrases right. I could call it a process flow, Chad, but instead I'm just going to call them flows because that's what Atlassian calls them. And I say that half jokingly, but when you go look up help, the term is flow. So please keep that in mind. When you're Googling something or talking to other people or in Discord or in the community, that's what you're going to use to get help with this. And again, here's a link to that Discord channel. Jump on in there. Feel free to ask questions. Just be careful about sharing sensitive stuff for your company. But this is a great way to get help. There's like 200 folks in there ready to answer questions. Haze, it's not just a conversation flow, though, because the flow can include actions. So the agent can actually take action for a customer without a human intervention. Now, the custom flow is something I will draw out on a whiteboard first. I'll plan it out. And this will depend on the process of my team. It might be similar to what a human does. It might be different. So in the same way I spend a lot of time agonizing over the intents that I have in the training phrases, I spend a lot of time agonizing over the flows because this is what happens to a customer after they start using the agent. We get different step types. We get a choice. So someone can pick, what kind of hardware do you have? Oh, 3 options. We can have a message, just text that shows up. Now, the choice can do branching, and I think up to 20 things can be included. I don't recommend including 20 options for your customer. After 5, it collapses them all. Under 5, it's like a button, and we'll see this live. I use messages to confirm or direct people to help. You can include hyperlinks in here. So I say, hey, go read this policy first. Do you still have questions? To kind of deflect earlier. We can also prompt for information, though. So we could, and the difference between the choice and the prompt for information is a choice controls where they go in the flow. Think of it like branching logic. If they say I have a password reset and they pick on Gmail, that goes down one flow or one path. If they instead pick Slack, it sends them down a different set of questions. So we can control how the conversation goes with the choice. With the ask for info, we can add information to a request type if they need to file a ticket. The annoyance for me is not every field is supported. So depending on your Jira setup, you may or may not be able to fill in every field on a work item. It can also do things like change the request type. So again, there is the default ask a question, but in the flow, the agent can realize or be told this is actually a password reset request, not a hardware one. So again, making it easier for my agents. The customer doesn't have to know that, but our agents will then get the right thing. The last important step type is a web request. And this to me is pretty cool because you can connect to other systems from the agent. This requires a bit more technical knowledge because you are calling a webhook, but this allows you to interact with a system outside of Jira, which is pretty cool. So a quick question, have you used webhooks? This to me was a new, or web requests, this was a new concept. It is a type of integration though. So as you're considering your process, there's some more advanced ones you can use that allow the agent to connect to a different system entirely and send information or receive information. Again, this is fairly technical. You might need some help, but just know that it exists. So back to our scenario. And please keep the questions coming. This group has been pretty quiet in the chat. I hope that means you are all like super experts and confident in what's going on. But please drop a question in there. I'll be happy to back on up. We have our intent password reset. We have an idea of the process now. We've spoken to our team and we know what we want to happen after we recognize, hey, this thing is about a password reset. And this is my reminder to teleport into Jira, to drink some coffee, and all of y'all's reminder to hit the like button. We've got about 25 likes, 75 people, which is amazing. But please hit like. That'll help other people find this. Also, check out that webhook. Check out that QR code right under my head for a course on virtual agents. I have a lot of other learning courses in there as well on topics like Confluence and other things. So I am back in my agent, and this is the same screen I was at. Now, to find the flows, I have to open an intent. So I've got this, I only have one intent, makes this easy. I'm just going to click on it, and it's going to take me to its flow. Now, up in the top right, I have some options around this. I can go back to my training phrases and modify them. I have some settings, specific things like the name, confirmation, etc. But on the flow tab is where I define the process the agent follows. And I'll try and make this fit in my window. There we go. So by default, you'll have a send a message and then a choice. This is just a starting structure, which is, it's a start, I'll say. There are no templated flows in the same way there are the templated intents or training phrases, which is a bit annoying. I tend to start out, though, with some kind of message. Now, at this point, and I'll show you what this looks like in a minute, you can test your agents. But at this point, they've already asked some questions and gotten some information. However, I like to add things in here, like, it sounds like you need help with a password. I can help you out. Now, the message is just something that the customer gets. And similar to the name of the flow, customers don't see the title, so I might include this as like an introduction. This is for other humans to see, or other admins, and you'll see it show up here. So it realizes, hey, it's a password reset. It then goes, oh, I'm going to send this message. And then by default, it says offer a choice. Yes, it solved it. No, it didn't. So this is that branching logic. I'm going to change this choice, though. And I'm going to change this choice because in my company's example, you know, it's like which system, which platform needs a reset. Now, what you do here will differ depending on your process. In this example, I'll just have two. I'll say like Gmail and Slack. And this may not be the best example of the way to do this because you might have two different intents because it's different enough. You need to match Gmail to one, Slack to the other. But just to demonstrate how this can work, I now have this branch in my logic. If they click Gmail, this will happen. If they click Slack, this will happen. Now, let's say at my company, I know that Gmail can be entirely automated. So I'm just going to add a step in here. And this is where I can see all my step types. My choices, my messages, my information. And then the background actions. They are constantly adding new background actions. Since I last ran this, these last 3 have been added. I'm expecting they'll add more as we go. An important one is you can trigger automations in Jira from the agent. So please keep that in mind. Keep it in your back pocket. This can help, again, make things happen without involving a human. And that's the whole point. We're deflecting the need of a ticket. We're making sure that the customer, that Remy, gets the help they need without having to take any action. In this case, though, I'm just going to offer a choice. I'm going to say, have you read our help desk on resetting your password? And I might even make this a hyperlink or insert a link to that. Not what I wanted. Maybe I'll put in my Discord link here just for giggles. And I'm going to make this a branching logic, a yes, no. And if they say no, I'm going to add a message saying something like, please go read it. Follow the steps. And then at the end, I'm going to end the branch. And I'm going to say resolve. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, hey, I understand that Mayor needs help with their password, But I've asked them, have you tried fixing it yourself? And they said no. So I'm going to give them the information they need. I'm going to say, here is a link to what you want to do. Go do it. And then if you still need help, come back. So that's one way I can educate. I can let people know here's the right thing to do. This might be the same thing that I as a human do. If Hayes sends in a ticket and I read it, I go, hey, Hayes, go try this yourself first, then come back if there's problems. That can help educate my team so they know what to do. Now, that's also why I've included in this branch a yes, I have tried that. I might then send a message saying, okay, I'll get someone to help you. Or maybe I'll prompt them for more information. Or maybe even I'll solicit information. I'll add another box and click on ask for information. And again, I can't pick every field, which is annoying, but I might have them update a dropdown or something like that if it's available. So this is where it's important for me to sit down with my team and figure out what is our process for these items. And this I need to change from resolve over to, what is it, escalate. So these last steps can either be escalate or resolve. Every branch must end in escalate or resolve, because this tells the agent either, yes, you did a good job and you helped the customer, or you need a human to go help and it's going to make a ticket. So to complete this flow, I've also got the Slack one. Let's pretend in our company we don't have any way to help with Slack. It all has to be automatic. Okay, I'll get someone to help you. This is very simple, but it helps us understand how this whole thing can flow. Someone comes in, it knows, oh, Vikram needs help with a password. I can help you with that. Do you need Gmail or Slack? Oh, I need Gmail. Great. Have you tried fixing it yourself? No? Go try. Or, oh, I need help with Slack. Great. I'll get someone to help you right away. This helps deflect tickets, because even if only 20% of tickets are handled by this, that's 20% less tickets about password resets that Tushar has to deal with. So that's a great thing. And over time, this will free up my agents to do more important, higher level work. So I'm going to save. And now I have a flow. I have my training phrases that tell it what the intent is. It's still not turned on though. And I think I have a couple slides to talk about, yes, before we go play with the agent. So teleporting back to slides. I have another leading question. And I say leading because I think I know the answer for most people. Just curious how much planning you all put into like the customer processor flow. Hayes is saying the lazy reader will always select talk to a person. If you noticed in my flow, at no point did I say, would you like to talk to a person? All I said was, have you done these things? Now, you're absolutely right. Some percentage of people will always just try and get to the I want a ticket. However, most people, most of the time, will answer honestly because they don't want to have to talk to a human. They just need their password reset. They just need their laptop. They just need their whatever. And this is where, like, when we think about our agents, a ton of this is planning. And that was a great segue, Hayes. Thank you for that question. I've spoken about it here, and you helped me build those training phrases. Like, that takes time. That takes iteration. That takes effort. The flow, I just made up. But really, I would spend time, a week, 2 weeks, talking to the team, whiteboarding it out, examining tickets to figure out what is the best way to help my customers. I want to make sure that when Arestra puts in a ticket, they get the help they need. Carlos, you're reading my mind. I'm going to do this next. We're going to test this agent, and then we're going to turn it on. So thank you for your telepathy. So planning is a huge aspect of this. Please, please, please add time to plan and to replan and to examine and follow up. So at the start, I'll make time to sit down and have some meetings and thought leadership and tinker, but I'll also then look at metrics. I won't have many metrics to show you in this demo because it's brand new, but the agent will also capture things like how many times have I been used? Of those, how many times could I do something? Could I assist? Did I match an intent? How many times was I able to reach into Confluence and pull out an answer and give it to someone? So the agent can also interact with a knowledge base. You don't have to tell the agent how to do everything. You just have to tell the agent to identify what Vikram is talking about so it can then try to help or try to get an answer. So as part of your virtual agent process, it's not just about, oh, I deployed the tool. That's 20% of it. Most of what you'll be doing is planning and understanding and examining. So the tool can then be used to support what needs to happen. You'll hear me stress that a lot because many groups fail to truly internalize that, and then they wonder why things don't work. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox and jump us back into our agent. But I do need some water because I am talking a lot. All right, folks, quick reminder, hit the like button if you're liking this. Super easy way to support me. Also lets me know I should probably make more stuff about virtual agents. I've got 75 folks learning, 35 likes, which is brilliant. And I will consider more videos around this, and I'll talk more about other learning opportunities at the end. I have this agent now. There's a few other considerations. On the left, I have this knowledge tab. This will let me connect my virtual agent to a knowledge base. Now, to make this happen, I have to connect it. I have to connect the Jira project to something. So in this example, I'm just going to say, reach into the HeanTech space for answers. So I'm just quickly linking it, but what it looks into would relate to what the project is about. So my IT project would probably be linked to an IT Confluence base that has answers. So going back into my agent now, going back to my agent, there we go. My knowledge tab will now show me some more information. It's saying the agent can use Confluence to get information. And I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to allow my agent to do this. Now, this requires that Atlassian Intelligence is turned on in your instance. So you might have to talk to your admins about enabling this. But now I can go back to my intents, open it up, and I can test this out. Up in the top right, there's a test button, and I'll just push it. And this is what someone will see when they interact with the agent from my portal. So I can just type something in. I might say, hi, as a starting point. And you'll notice it's kicking off with its standard flow, its greeting. Hi, I'm a virtual agent. How can I help you? Oh, my password doesn't work. So now it's taking what I typed in and comparing it to those training phrases. It's applying its machine learning, its artificial intelligence, its whatever, and trying to figure out what's going on. And we can see here, it doesn't know what I'm talking about. This is an immediate red flag for me. I should add that as a training phrase. But this is the testing I perform. After I've built out the agent with the flow and the intents and the training phrases, I then come in and I try to break it, essentially. I might just try password reset to see if I can make this work for this demonstration. There we go. And now it's asking me that question. Are you looking for password reset help is what I call the flow. And I'll say yes or no. If I say no, I'm training the agent. If I say yes, I'm training the agent. Either way, the agent is learning the term password reset relates to password reset or it doesn't. So in addition to those training phrases, the agent will help teach itself. And right away, this is the flow we built. Hey, I can help you with that. Oh, good. Which platform needs a reset? For this example, I'll pick Gmail because that's the more interesting one. And this is that question to deflect everything. Have I read the article? If I say no, it's just going to close this out and say, go read it. In this case, though, I'm going to say yes, I did read it. Oh, Carlos, I will go right backward to test this in a minute. You know, Chad, I love doing these live trainings because things either break or there are things that have changed or I just don't know something. And then it's a great learning opportunity and we all get a laugh. So yeah. And so here we can see it escalating. It said, oh, you need password reset help. And it got to the end of its flow and it's like, I can't help you. I got to put in a ticket. So now as a human, I can click on this ticket. Keep in mind when you're testing, you will actually make tickets. They'll just be called testing. And then the first phrase typed in is a summary. But on this ticket, you'll see Atlassian Assist is being recorded everything that was done. And if I look at this work item in Jira as an agent, someone who fixes the ticket, I can also see that chat history way down here. So right away, I have this work item that has some guidance. I, as the human, can look at it to figure out what's going on, and I can help this person. So I'm going to close out the test because we're running out of time. But where to test is the top right of an intent. You look for this little beaker icon. It also shows up on the intents menu in the top right, test. Now, I'm going to turn this on as the last thing I'm going to show you, just so you can see where this lives in reality. Let's pretend the agent is ready to go. We have done all the testing and we think it looks good to go. I'm now going to pretend I'm a customer and I go to the help desk portal. Because it's been turned on, right at the top, I see this blue bar, chat with an agent. So this is the most obvious place that will be different. I also teach my users, hey, go chat with the agent. That can help you out, but it also trains the agent and makes the process better. If this was tied into Slack or Teams or email, it would also be pulling in stuff from email, Slack, and Teams. But I can click on this to chat, and now I can interact with this agent. You'll notice it looks basically the same as testing. So just be careful if you're testing that it's testing. All right, folks. I see some questions. I'll get to those in just a minute. Next steps, though, get hands-on if you can. I learned all this by just doing it and making a ton of mistakes and feeling silly. It's a great way to learn. But also check out that course on the right. And again, this goes to my learning platform. You'll also see this course on Udemy. Honestly, for me, the best place to go is this link I'm going to send you. An hour in-depth exploration of these agents and concepts and ideas. I'm also going to be putting out more videos on the agent as we go. So be on the lookout for more free YouTube content if you want. And keep engaging and talking to folks about this. This tier 0, this deflection, got a big boost by virtual agents of every kind. And the fact that this is built into Jira makes it very easy to integrate and use. You do have to plan it, though. So make sure you take time to sit down and consider what do you need it to do and how. Okay, some quick questions. Hayes, thank you again for jumping in and helping out Carlos. Brilliant. I really appreciate when the community helps the community. Feel free also to join us in Discord for regular connections. Can we make the agent check things in our system? Off the top of my head, not easily, Aresta. There might be ways using the webhooks. So if you go into the agent and you look at some of the different step types, and I'll quickly pull this up, I won't have time to dig into it. It may be possible to use, was it this one? Which one was it? Here we go. To use some of the more advanced step types. It is not as fully integrated as you might like or expect, but the nice people at Atlassian are building out more of this. So if I cram in one more step type, I've got send web request. This can give me a lot of powerful things. I can do a get, a post, a put, whatever. This does require some more technical expertise, though. Oh, Justin, that's on me for a bad description. Thank you for calling that out. Let me zoom out there. Yeah, thank you, Justin. I will fire my intern and I'll get right on that. I will have a very stern talk with the person in the mirror about naming things properly. Missy, can agents live in Teams or Slack? Yes. You do have to integrate the Jira project with those things, but the agent can exist in a Slack or Teams channel and respond from there. It can also respond to email intake if you have that set up. So please keep that in mind. This example and demonstration was just the bare bones just within Jira, but the agent can be exposed in different ways. A few parting thoughts. This agent is also being expanded. Again, in the past 6 months, I've seen a lot of updates and changes, so expect to see more. For example, the addition of running automations is new, and that gives the agent a lot more power because it can tap into any automation you have access to. So as you're considering how can it work, consider what it can do outside of itself, just not limited to the flow. I do want to thank y'all. There's still 65 people in here, which is amazing. And we've got, am I zoomed in again? No, I'm not. Chad, stop messing with me, man. 37 likes. If you got a minute, please hit the like. Also, if you're comfortable, please, excuse me, take a look at that course. Share it with other folks. That's the easiest way to support me, and I'm doing this professionally, so you'll hear me talk about that a little bit more. But I'm going to keep making more of this stuff, a lot of free stuff on YouTube, and you'll see me figuring out other ways to support the community. So please let me know what you are curious about, what you think I can do better. Consider becoming a member, like my friend Chad and some others, right at that link. But let me know what you need. That's really why I'm here. If any of the stuff I have that is paid, you have a financial difficulty, reach out to me directly. Email me in the bottom right. I'll be happy to help you out. So thank you all. You'll see me again here tomorrow. We're talking about the ACA 905, which is a certification about board configuration. Noreen, you're very welcome. And otherwise, you'll see me in here next week with other topics and ideas. But thank you all so much for learning with me. I really get a kick out of this, and I hope some of you found this interesting. Scott, all of this was recorded, so you'll get the recording will be available after YouTube processes it in a couple of hours, but it's good to see you, my friend. Otherwise, folks, I'll leave the chat open for a bit. Final shout out to my Discord community. Consider joining. You might need a personal email if your work doesn't allow or prefer you to join through your work email, but that's a great way to just talk to folks and meet other like-minded people. So thank you all again. Have a great day wherever you are. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again in a training sometime soon.